I work at a big company, and I can earn enough for both of us, so don't worry, Eric assured me amidst our engagement. However, he underwent a transformation upon our marriage. It became a daily ritual for him and Larry to insult me. In addition, Eric reduced living expenditures and assumed charge of all finance. Even though I was the one who cooked all the time, he never stopped griping. Stoned out of the house after telling Eric I wanted a divorce, completely exhausted, I happened to run into Larry later on. "Hey, I heard you're getting a divorce now," he informed me, to which I said, "You must be mistaken for someone else." My reaction was one of shock. In a mocking tone, Larry remarked, "Don't pretend. Don't bother me with financial matters. We're no longer a couple. Remember, I am not going to lend you any money." His vanishing into the throng occurred before I had a chance to reply. As the curious looks of passers-by reached my neck, I couldn't help but burst into laughter. What a jerk! Ignorance is his virtue. I'm eagerly anticipating his reaction upon discovering the truth. I'm Michelle, and I'm a 53-year-old stay-at-home mom. We tied the knot 7 years ago. Eric appeared to be a wonderful man when we first met. When we first met at a social event, I thought he was hilarious and really approachable. In our farewell conversation, he brought up the possibility of a future meeting with just the two of us. I agreed, even though I was a little sad to be leaving. He brought up the fact that his ex-wife had a son named Larry when we first began dating. A few of times we went out to supper together, and Larry was in 5th grade. He inherited his father's amiability and intelligence. I chose to start talking a year later, on the same night that Eric proposed. You are aware that I reside with my parents and hold a part-time job, aren't you? My health took a major hit when I started working for a very demanding corporation soon after finishing college, I explained. Is that correct? Quitting must have been tough, Eric responded. I think long hours will be difficult for me in the future, he said. With a sympathetic smile, Eric reassured her, Don't sweat it. Never leave the house. I am able to provide adequately for our family thanks to my job at a large corporation. I took solace in his words and agreed to his request. My heart swelled with joy as I met a wonderful man and imagined a blissful married life ahead of us. In fewer than 6 months, I never thought I would feel this down. The way Eric and Larry acted altered significantly as we acclimated to our new family of 3. They began to make fun of me at everything I said or did. "Mom, have you gone to bed yet? My sandwich is missing." Larry walked into the bedroom before school and questioned, his face contorted in a frown. "Yesterday I was helping out in a local park with weeding, but I was unwell with the heat. The previous day I had already begun to feel ill. It must be great to be a housewife, simply lazing off all day," Eric replied in response to my request for assistance, before he scowled and refused. "Like you, I require my days off as well. Allow me to relax." Overexerting myself the night before made it so that I was unable to rise the following morning. "Sorry, Larry," I told Larry as an apology. "I am unable to prepare a sandwich on your behalf. Here's enough cash to go to the store and purchase one. Mom, would you mind making a sandwich?" Larry begged his mother. When dealing with leftovers or frozen food, you always cut corners. Not being able to cook is a major failing on your part as a mom. The hurtful things he said moved me. With a half-smile, Eric murmured, "Don't blame Mom, Larry," as he moved by in the corridor. "Since you skipped the sandwich, tonight's dinner must be fancy." "Oh, really? Okay, then I'll be anticipating it. You should have no trouble finding the time to cook supper when you're a homemaker. You haven't been slouching all day, have you? Be careful not to skimp on the cleaning." They made disrespectful remarks and laughed at my plight before they left. No way. I'd rather stay in bed and make a simple lunch. As I gazed up at the ceiling, a deep sigh escaped me. Despite his high position and pay as department leader at a large corporation, Eric is notoriously frugal. The amount he allocated for my living expenditures was absurdly meager. It's my salary, so why should my wife manage it? After we were married, Eric insisted on taking charge of the finances, and I acquiesced. As long as everything was done correctly, I didn't care who dealt with the funds. But then Eric began to frivolously waste funds. Work requires it. A company's drinking budget is a legitimate expense. He would use the phrase, "it's essential," to justify his extravagant clothing and watch purchases. Even if I only needed a little something, he would frown at me, because in his mind, a housewife doesn't need any spending money. Eric would become furious whenever I bought inexpensive snacks. No matter how much money I wanted to spend, I had to get his okay first. Every time I've gone shopping for clothes or gotten a haircut, I've thought, just one pair of jeans will do, won't it? "You're purchasing more," he would inquire. I said, "I'd like a cozy pair for the colder months." He responded, "Fine, but get them from a cheap store." Additionally, I intended to make frequent visits to the hair salon. "Can I go once every 3 months to keep my hairstyle?" I inquired. "Why are you concerned with looking good?" Eric said with a scowl, "A lengthy hairstyle requires only a trim every 7 months. Farewell, haircuts." This meant that I could only purchase inexpensive cosmetics from drugstores, because the inexpensive creams were so irritating to my skin. I yearned for something more gentle, and Eric couldn't care less. The money Eric paid for living expenses was very low, about 1/3 of what most people spend. With this small budget, it was hard to maintain a balanced diet. When I complained, Eric responded smugly. On the TV show about saving money, they lived on this amount. They had a farmer relative who gave them vegetables and bread. I told him, "That's not possible with these high prices." He replied, "That's your job to manage." What really hurt me was how Eric acted when it came to sending a wreath for my dad's funeral. When Dad, who had been sick, passed away, and it was time to send a wreath, Eric frowned and said, "We don't need to send a wreath for the funeral, right? Only the main mourner needs to send one. Use your savings. It's not my problem." As I prepared for the funeral with tears in my eyes, his lack of care made me angry. I said, "I never planned to ask you for it, so don't worry." He replied, "Good, but Larry and I really have to go. It'll ruin our long weekend, right?" "Dad," Larry added, "I wanted to play a new game." Although they complained, I didn't doubt they would come. However, Eric and Larry arrived late to the funeral, barely greeted my mom and relatives, and left quickly. My mom, who was very tired, didn't have the energy to get upset, but my relatives were furious. "What's going on, Eric? Your wife's father died, and you're acting so cold. Larry, you've received so many gifts and allowances from Michelle's dad," they said. While I apologized to my relatives, I felt my love for Eric and Larry quickly fading. Eric, always in his stylish suits with a charming presence, and Larry, attending a prestigious university and seen as a handsome father and son by the neighbors, only insulted me at home. They wouldn't come straight home after work or school. Instead, they wandered around and came back with the smell of lipstick and perfume. Despite doing whatever they wanted, they treated me like a maid, demanding a fancy meal with the little money I had for food. When I served dishes with chicken or pork, both Eric and Larry would glare at me with disdain and insult me. "Don't you want to serve your husband good food after he comes home from work? If I get sick from eating this bad food, how will you take responsibility? Are you even a mom?" they would say. I could make delicious meals, even with chicken or pork. They disliked vegetables and fish, but eating such a picky diet will make you sick, Eric would reply. "I'd eat if it were high quality. Don't complain when you can't satisfy us. I don't need advice from someone as weak as you," they used to say while eating and complaining. But lately they just left the food untouched. Yet if I didn't cook, they would yell, "Are you slacking off even though you're a wife?" I would eat the leftovers for breakfast or lunch the next day, but tears would well up as I wondered for whom I was cooking. Their meals consisted of store-bought sandwiches, instant noodles, and snacks. Eventually, Eric was diagnosed with prediabetes during a company health check, and Larry started gaining weight. It was inevitable. Then they lashed out at me, saying, "What kind of wife makes her husband and child sick? We don't need a useless person like you. We're getting a divorce." "I'll leave," I said. They were surprised when I agreed easily. "Are you sure you're unemployed? You've been living off me. How will you survive now?" Eric asked. "Don't worry about me. I'll send the divorce papers for you to sign later. Please leave my stuff until the movers come to pick it up," I replied. "Nobody's going to take your stuff," Eric sneered. "You'll definitely regret divorcing a high-earning, handsome guy like me, a kind husband who let you be a housewife with 3 meals and naps. There's no one else like that in the world, right?" "That's right. You've been living in luxury on Dad's money till now. You'll struggle from here on," Larry added as I packed my clothes into a suitcase. Eric and Larry kept talking behind me. Honestly, I envied Eric's ability to overestimate himself so much. When we were dating, I saw this part of him as confident and shining. "You'll just go back to your parents, right? Say hi to your retired mom for me. You two will be heading straight to poverty," Eric said. Larry laughed at his father's prediction. "They'll end up on welfare soon. They already reek of poverty, but with Grandma, it'll be the ultimate." The funeral the other day was nothing special. It smelled like poverty. I thought so too, like a poor family's funeral. "I want a fancy one," Larry agreed. "But for Dad, who works at a big company, and me attending a prestigious university, poverty is a different world." Their endless comments made me really angry, but I knew it was pointless to argue, so I just let it go. After I went back home and explained everything to Mom, she said in a low voice, "At the funeral, seeing Eric and Larry, I felt something was wrong, but I thought it's not good to interfere too much in my daughter's household, so I kept quiet. I was too busy taking care of Dad. I'm sorry for barging in like that." "It's okay. I've been lonely without you. Why don't you stay here?" I replied. "Thanks, but once I get my job on track, I plan to move to an apartment," I said. Mom's concern was comforting, but I knew living with her might make me too dependent. Living nearby and visiting sometimes seemed like the right balance. Yes, Eric and Larry mocked me for being unemployed, but actually I had been working from home. It all started with the budget recipes I posted on my blog. After getting many positive comments, I bravely launched a cooking site and shared my recipes, which quickly gained readers and internet fame. Soon after, an editor from a major publisher approached me, and now I'm getting ready to publish a cookbook. Because of this, I didn't have time to think much about the divorce, and the days flew by. One day, my phone rang insistently. I stopped stirring the ingredients in the pan and answered. "Hello," I said. "Hey, what's this about a clause for the divorce trial?" Eric asked. I sighed, knowing it was about that. "You and Larry insulted me all the time," I said. "Oh, I thought—" "Never mind," Eric said with relief in his voice. "I didn't cheat or anything. Did you record me and Larry? Your memory alone won't work. I've noted everything in my diary. Try to claim otherwise if you can," I replied. Eric scoffed. "Really? Poor people and their obsession with money. You're so stingy. If you think you can get a deposit for the divorce trial, go ahead." After his outburst, Eric hung up. I finished cooking and then visited a detective agency to investigate Eric's background. Soon his affair with a coworker was uncovered. The day after, I sent photos of the two of them together and the investigation report to his company. Eric contacted me again. "You spreading this at work is low. The angry manager reported it to the higher-ups, and now I'm in trouble," he said. "I'm fired." "Oh, she was the manager's daughter, wasn't she? It's your fault for cheating, knowing they're strict about such things," I said, laughing. "But you should be fine, right? With all the saving you did, you must have plenty of money. Aren't you and Larry living comfortably?" Larry moved into a dorm this spring because commuting was tough. I prepaid dorm fees and have apartment loans. My savings were drained by that woman. She was two-timing me with a younger guy. Eric replied, "Sounds tough for you, but it's none of my concern." I said, "Oh, and about the divorce trial deposit, I'll also take half the value of the apartment for property distribution. When the invoice arrives, please transfer the full amount to my account." I heard Eric yelling on the other end, but I hung up without caring. One day, while returning from shopping in town, I bumped into Larry. He was dressed in his usual flashy clothes, with piercings all over his face and an eye-catching hairstyle, making him easy to spot from a distance. Seeing me, Larry raised his hand in greeting. "Hey, heard you're getting government assistance now." I looked puzzled. "Huh, who are you mistaking me for?" "Don't pretend," Larry said, smirking. "It's obvious where an unemployed old lady like you would end up. If you had just followed me and Dad, you'd still be living a comfortable life. It's pathetic." Feeling really angry, I couldn't help but reply, "Getting government help is a citizen's right. Any one of us could need it someday due to illness or an accident. It's wrong to look down on that." Yeah, so you're saying you're getting it too," Larry said, smirking and pointing his finger at me. "Listen, you and I are estranged. Don't come crying to me for money. Remember that." As I opened my mouth to reply, he turned his back and disappeared into the crowd. I lowered my head, conscious of the stares of passers-by. Shaking my shoulders, I couldn't help but laugh. It was just too ridiculous. Poor thing, he knows nothing. I can't wait to see his reaction when he finds out the truth. A few days later, I woke up to find an unbelievable number of missed calls from Larry. Reluctantly, I called back. Larry shouted furiously, "You deceived me, old woman." "What are you talking about?" I asked. "I've heard from a cousin you got 3 high-rise apartments from Grandpa's inheritance and are living a carefree life. Hiding that and getting a divorce is cowardly," he said. "That's my personal asset. Why should I share it?" I replied, "I didn't have to tell you or Eric. It's joint property. You should have done a distribution of property with Dad during the divorce. Unfortunately, it became mine after the divorce procedures, so I can't give it to Eric officially. I knew from Dad's will that it would be mine, but I delayed the process until after the divorce because I didn't want to share it with Eric." Larry shouted in frustration, "A rich woman like you getting government help. I'll report you to the authorities right now." "Feel free," I replied. "It's not me, but Eric who is receiving it." Larry fell silent. "What?" I explained as if talking to a child. "What I told you last time. It's not me. Honestly, even without the inheritance, I can live well. I have income from my cooking website and book sales, which I started secretly. But Eric, after spending all his money on his affair, has lots of bills piling up and is borrowing heavily. When his affair was discovered and he was fired, his income stopped. Are you listening? Dad's on government assistance now," I said, pulling the phone away from my ear as Larry screamed. I waited for him to calm down before continuing. "You really didn't know anything. He's too proud to tell his son. According to relatives, he asked for money. He's behind on his apartment rent and facing eviction, staying at home all day in an old apartment. If you're worried, why don't you contact him?" There was silence on the other end for a while. Then Larry said resentfully, "You're cold-hearted. After all Dad did for you, you have no intention of repaying him? If you have money, you should give some to Dad." "Why should I?" I said. "Since our marriage, it's been nothing but unpleasant memories. I don't feel like I owe him anything." I stated coldly, "If you're so concerned, why don't you, his son, lend him money? You're working part-time after all." "I don't have savings. The part-time pay goes to hanging out with friends and stuff," Larry said, suddenly evasive. I smirked. "You've been living quite lavishly for a student. Borrowing money to hang out at clubs is not a good idea." "How do you know that?" he asked. "The other day in town I saw you from across the street. After we parted, you met up with a girl at a club and went into a brand store arm in arm. Also, a club membership card was left at the house. Using my credit card for shopping without my permission is out of the question." Larry stammered, "That's unfair. You got high-rise apartments from Grandpa. Why don't I or Dad get a share? This is discrimination." Yeah. The credit card bill will be sent soon. Make sure you pay it before it's due," I replied. Before I could finish, the call was disconnected. I sighed and ended the call. Just when I thought it was all over, a few months later, Eric and Larry showed up at my parents' house without any notice. The doorbell rang nonstop, and when I answered, there they were expecting. They came to ask for money. I let them in to avoid causing a scene in the neighborhood. Eric and Larry, who used to look so stylish, now appeared completely different, wearing wrinkled shirts and dirty pants, with lifeless and gaunt eyes. Yet they still had the energy to be sarcastic as they walked into the living room. Eric looked around and sneered. "Same old house, huh? Why not sell one of those high-rise apartments and rebuild this place? Do something nice for Mom living miserably on her pension. This is Dad's house, and we like it this way. More importantly, when are you two planning to pay me back? You're past the deadline," I said. Eric, lifting his chin arrogantly, replied, "Michelle, I'll forgive you now, so let's remarry. You started a cooking site, right? If you manage the household perfectly, I'll even let you work. So come back. Such a generous dad, forgiving the wife who abandoned her husband and child. So, Mom, why not live with Dad again? Living with just two women must be insecure." Stunned, I was speechless. After a moment, intense anger welled up inside me. "Don't joke with me. How much more do you plan to ridicule and fool me?" I shouted at the astonished Eric and Larry, after treating me like nothing more than a housekeeper, insulting me, not providing proper living expenses, and then kicking me out. Now you want me back just because you found out I inherited high-rise apartments. No way. What? You're going to abandon us? Rich people really are stingy, knowing we're struggling with money and still demanding pay. You're heartless. You were poor yourself until recently. Don't get cocky, Eric retorted. In the middle of the argument, Mom returned from shopping. Eric and Larry immediately started buttering her up. "Please lend us some money. We'll probably pay it back. Besides, isn't it unfair that only Michelle gets Grandpa's inheritance? Give me one of the high-rise apartments, too." "Hi, Grandma. Long time no see. How have you been?" "Grandma, please persuade Mom to remarry Dad. He doesn't want to break up, but Mom is being stubborn." Mom, surprised at first, changed her expression upon hearing their words. She placed her shopping bag on the floor and let out a deep sigh. "So shameless, both of you," she said. "What?" Eric and Larry responded, confused. "I'm telling you to have some shame," Mom shouted. Suddenly startled by her loud voice, Eric and Larry were understandably confused. Mom usually never scolded them sharply. "I've heard everything about the divorce from Michelle. I can't believe you have the nerve to show up here," Mom said firmly. No, Michelle's exaggerating. You have to listen to our side too," Eric said quickly. "That's right. Grandma, Mom is quite the liar," Larry added. "I remember how well you two behaved at my husband's funeral." Mom cut off Larry's words sternly. "Are late not greeting me or the relatives, yawning through the service and leaving before the coffin was sent off, and now you dare ask for his inheritance. Go back to sleep." She escorted Larry and Eric, who were taken aback, to the front door, where she gave them one final stare. "Our acquaintance with you two has diminished. Stay away from this place. I will contact the authorities if you do." Mom closed the front door and threw their shoes out the door, making them depart in their socks. After Eric's lawyer warned him that suing would increase the expense even further, he continued to delay paying me. Eventually, he reluctantly sent the funds to my account. Eric was unable to secure employment after losing his previous position. When word got around about his financial predicament, his in-laws stepped in to pay off his obligations. After Eric's actions, they went to my parents' house to apologize. Subsequently, after failing to secure employment, Eric went back to the countryside and pretended to assist with the family's farming. But word of our divorce got throughout the community, and when it did, everyone from kids to grandmas pointed and laughed at him. Even with a degree from a prestigious university and a job at a huge corporation, there's frugal Uncle Eric. They would complain about how useless it is if one's wife dumps them because they're too haughty. His wild spending led to the dissolution of his marriage to his first wife. He'll never change. It was humiliating to be teased by the locals. I cut off all communication with Eric after he insisted on marrying again in an effort to salvage face. After the money ran gone, his mistress evidently lost interest and left him a long time ago. I tracked her out with the aid of the detective and collected the security deposit for the divorce trial. Additionally, I had Larry repay the funds he had illegally charged to the credit card. Larry started skipping lectures and acting carefree despite being enrolled at a famous university and on course to follow in his father's footsteps of success. This resulted in dismal grades and, ultimately, expulsion. Although his loved ones were concerned, Larry's haughty remarks turned them away. A heated argument ensued between him and Eric, during which he adamantly stated, "You're my father, but you won't help pay off the debt." They no longer communicate with one another. Larry gets by on part-time work and lives alone in a little apartment. The days of frivolous spending and snarky comments supported by his substantial income are over. I find it to be a welcome shift. Along with the success of my recipe website, I have recently inked a book deal. The high-rise apartment my dad left me was on the top floor, so I went there. The high-rise is conveniently located near our family home, and Mom is still in good health at 75 years old. I have a secret getaway to a hot spring planned for Mom's approaching birthday. Despite the failure of my marriage, I am determined to maintain a strong bond with my mother.
Hey everyone, I'm Hannah. I chirp as I slide into my usual seat at our polished mahogany dining table. The smell of roast chicken and freshly baked rolls fills the room. Sweetheart, Mom's voice carries warmly. She's pouring wine while Dad is engrossed in the latest property listings on his tablet. Our Sunday dinners are a tradition I treasure, even more now that I've joined Adam's Realty, our family business. Big news, I announce, swirling my glass. The Carson property just received 3 offers above asking price. Dad looks up, pride radiating in his eyes. That's my girl. I knew putting you in charge of that listing was the right call. Remember when Hannah was little, playing real estate agent with her dolls? Mom says, chuckling. She made tiny for sale signs out of popsicle sticks. The memory draws a laugh from me. What can I say? I've been preparing for this my whole life. Working with my parents has been incredible. Since graduating from Boston University 3 years ago, I've been learning the ins and outs of the business. Now, I'm handling major accounts and even helping with expansion plans. Speaking of news, I hesitate, feeling my cheeks flush. Andrew asked me to dinner tomorrow night. At LeBlanc. Mom's eyebrows shoot up. LeBlanc? That's where your father proposed to me. Maybe someone else has similar plans, Dad teases, winking. Dad, we've only been dating for 6 months. I protest, though I can't help smiling. Andrew Chen is everything I could ever want. Smart, kind, ambitious. We met at a charity gala where Adam's Realty was a sponsor, and he represented his law firm. One conversation about property law turned into drinks, then dinner, and now here we are. Have you shown him the beach house plans yet? Mom asks. Next weekend, he's coming with us to Cape Cod, remember? Oh right, she says with a mischievous grin. I'll make sure to bring out the embarrassing baby photos. Mom, please don't. The banter continues as we move to the living room for coffee. Dad settles into his favorite leather armchair, but his phone interrupts. Adams Realty, Robert speaking. Yes, the zoning permits are in order. He gives me an apologetic glance and disappears into his office. Mom smiles fondly. Your father built this company from nothing, you know. Now look at us. 3 offices across Massachusetts and expanding into Rhode Island next year. I sink into the plush sofa, feeling a wave of contentment. Our Victorian-style home in suburban Boston, the thriving family business, my amazing boyfriend. Life feels perfect. Oh, before I forget, Mom says, can you help your father clean out his office next weekend? The doctor said he needs to cut back on stress after that health scare. Sure, no problem. Maybe we'll find some hidden treasure, I joke, not realizing how true those words would become. The following weekend, I'm in Dad's office, sorting through decades of paperwork while keeping an eye on him to ensure he doesn't overexert himself. A weathered leather bag catches my eye, tucked behind a stack of dusty files. Hey Dad, I didn't know you collected vintage bags, I say, pulling it out. Dad's face drains of color. That's just old junk. Leave it. Come on, let me help. You're supposed to be taking it easy. Hannah, please, just put it back, he says, his voice unsteady. But curiosity gets the better of me. I open the clasp and pull out a stack of yellowed envelopes, along with what looks like a birth certificate. My heart skips a beat when I see the name, Natalie Adams. Dad? I whisper, my voice trembling. Who's Natalie? The room falls silent. Dad slumps into his chair, looking older than I've ever seen him. Please just put those away, he murmurs. But I can't stop myself. The letters are addressed to him, from someone named Hazel Martinez. My hands shake as I unfold the first one. Dear Robert, Natalie asked about you again today. She's graduating high school next month. Please reconsider. My world tilts. More letters spill out, each more desperate than the last. Photos follow, a young woman in a cap and gown who looks eerily like me, holding a baby. She was your daughter, wasn't she? I choke out. Natalie was my sister. Tears fill Dad's eyes. It's complicated. I shake my head, already piecing it together. Among the papers is a death certificate. Natalie died in a car accident 26 years ago, just days before my supposed birth date. The realization hits me like a freight train. Dad, I whisper, holding up a photo of the baby. That's me, isn't it? Natalie wasn't my sister. She was my mother. Dad's silence says everything. I never meant for you to find out this way, he says, his voice breaking. Tears blur my vision as I read a final letter, dated days before the accident. Robert, I'm begging you, one last time. Your granddaughter deserves to know her family. If not for me, then for her. I clutch the letter, my voice cracking. You let me believe all these years. I gasp for air, the betrayal suffocating. You abandoned her. Your own daughter. And then what? You swooped in and took her baby when she died. We gave you a good life. Dad snaps, his voice defensive. A life built on lies. I retort, my voice rising. I hold up another document, trembling with rage. These legal papers. You made sure Hazel, my grandmother, couldn't find me, didn't you? We were protecting you, he says, but his tone falters. Protecting me, or protecting your precious reputation? My hand shakes as I grab another letter. Natalie tried to contact you for years. Years. She just wanted you to acknowledge her existence. She was your daughter. I was young, Dad says, his voice lowering. When Hazel got pregnant, I had dreams. Ambitions. And Natalie didn't. What about her dreams? What about my right to know who I really am? My voice cracks, but I press on. The sound of Mom's heels clicking down the hallway interrupts us, and we both freeze. She appears in the doorway, her cheerful expression vanishing as she takes in the scene. Robert, she says cautiously, what's going on? I turn to her, my voice cold as ice. Ask him about Natalie, his secret daughter, my real mother. Her face turns ashen. You weren't supposed to. You knew? I choke out. All this time. The image of my perfect family shatters into shards of lies, each cutting deeper than the last. Every memory, every cherished moment is now tainted. You blocked every attempt Natalie made to contact you. I accuse. And when she died, you just, what? Decided to play daddy again. You don't understand how complicated things were back then, Dad pleads from across the room. Then explain it. I demand. Explain how you could abandon your own daughter and then steal her baby. We didn't steal you, Mom interjects, wringing her hands. The courts granted us custody. We were family. Family? I spit. Like how you were family to Natalie or to Hazel, my real grandmother. The one who's still alive somewhere, thinking I'm dead too. Hazel was unstable, Dad insists. She would have turned you against us. No, I say, shaking my head. She would have told me the truth. And what about Natalie's inheritance? The money that supposedly started this precious family business? Dad's face drains of color. Who told you about that? These bank statements, I snap, pulling them from the bag. Natalie's trust fund was mysteriously transferred right after her death, the exact amount you used to start Adam's Realty. I was protecting your future, he says weakly. By stealing my mother's money? The money that should have gone to me through Hazel. Mom steps closer, her voice pleading. Hannah, please. Everything we did for you. Stop saying that. I shout, my voice breaking. You didn't do this for me. You did it for yourselves. Your perfect life. Your perfect family. Your perfect lie. Dad's voice drops to a whisper. I love Natalie, in my own way. Your own way? I echo, incredulous. By ignoring her existence, by returning every letter she ever sent. There are dozens here, begging you to meet her, to acknowledge her as your daughter. I was building something, he says, his voice trembling. A legacy. A legacy built on theft and lies, I say, tears streaming down my face. Those property developments you're so proud of? They were funded with stolen money, my mother's money. The money stayed in the family, I say, my voice trembling with anger, but the family didn't. You kept me from knowing who I really am, who Natalie was. You kept me from Hazel, from my heritage, from everything that mattered. Hazel would have poisoned you against us, Mom insists, her voice rising in desperation. Like you poisoned me? I snap. Against my own mother? Against my own history? My chest heaves as the weight of their lies bears down on me. Does Andrew know? Does anyone know that the great Robert Adams built his empire on his dead daughter's trust fund? Dad's silence is damning. I hold up another paper, the words blurring as tears well in my eyes. I found the restraining order. The one you filed against Hazel right after Natalie's death. For the child's protection? Protection from what, Dad? The truth. We give you everything. Dad explodes, slamming his hand against the table. Private schools, vacations, opportunities, everything. Everything, I repeat bitterly, except honesty. Everything except my real family. Everything except the chance to know where I came from. Grabbing my phone, I pull up a search engine. Hazel Martinez, Boston area, I mutter, typing furiously. Let's see what other lies unravel. Hannah, stop. Mom lunges for my phone, but I step back. Why? I ask, glaring at her. Afraid I'll find more about the grandmother you kept me from. About how she fought for years in court just to see me. Those court records are sealed, Dad says firmly. Not anymore. I shoot back. Not for me. I'm going to find her. I'm going to learn everything you tried to bury. And as for the business, I pause, my voice turning sharp and cold. Let's see how it holds up to an audit of its funding sources. You wouldn't dare, Dad growls, his face darkening. No, Dad. I hold his gaze, unflinching. You already destroyed everything. The moment you chose your reputation over your daughter. The moment you stole her child. Me and her future. Now it's time for the truth to come out. I head for the door, my entire body shaking. Where are you going? Mom cries after me. To find my real family, I say without turning back. And don't worry about the business. I'm sure the IRS will be very interested in reviewing those original funding documents. Months later. Grandma, look at these property records from 1998. I say, spreading the documents across Hazel's kitchen table. Another shell company, 3 of them, all tied to siphoning money from Mom's trust fund. Hazel adjusts her reading glasses, her lips tightening. 3 decades of fraud, all hidden in plain sight. Andrew says this pattern of theft goes back years, I add, shaking my head. Hazel touches a photo of Natalie, her finger tracing the lines of my mother's face. You remind me so much of her. She had that same determination when she was focused on something. The investigators acted on our anonymous tip last week. My phone buzzes with a news alert. Adams Realty stock plummets amid fraud investigation. Your company is doing well, though, Hazel says with a smile. Martinez Properties just closed the Carson development. Turns out clients prefer honest business practices. Andrew walks in, briefcase in hand. Mrs. Peterson just transferred all her properties to us after the news about Robert's fraud broke. How's Linda holding up? She's filing for divorce, Hazel answers, shaking her head. Apparently, Robert's secret families didn't stop with Natalie. Investigators uncovered 2 more affairs he covered up with company money. The empire he built on lies is finally crumbling, Andrew says, holding up his tablet. Robert Adams, once Boston's premier real estate mogul, under investigation for decades of financial fraud. I glance at the screen, my heart heavy but resolute. All those years he claimed he was too young for responsibility, I murmur. Really, he was just too busy stealing Mom's money to build his perfect, fake life. You've done Natalie proud, Hazel says, patting my hand. Ready to go. The cemetery is quiet, bathed in the golden hues of a setting sun. I kneel before Natalie's grave for the first time, placing fresh flowers beside the headstone. Hazel shares stories of her childhood, her strength, and her dreams. The mother I never knew but whose spirit led me to this moment. I found the truth, Mom, I whisper. I found our real family, and I built something honest, something real. Everything Dad failed to do. Hazel points to the horizon. That was Natalie's favorite time of day, when the sun turns everything golden. Andrew offers me his hand, ready to go home. I look at Hazel, then back at Natalie's grave. For the first time in my life, I know exactly where home is. Yes, I say softly, let's go home. What would you do if you discovered your entire life was built on stolen inheritance and lies? Would you expose the truth immediately or take calculated revenge like I did? Share your thoughts below.